चले कहाँ तुम विनती करी तेरी, पाँव पड़े तोरे कितना मनाया फिर भी नहीं सुनी रे, छोड़ के कहाँ चले रे। घिरत रात अंधेरा डरावे, लोहित मोहे रुलावे, पंछी अकेला सुना है बसेरा, बाट तकत तोरे आवन की, छोड़ के कहाँ चले। অগ্রগতি পক্ষীরাজ উঠি যাও মই নতুন দিগন্তলৈ, হাঁহি মুখে হাঁহি মুখে জ্যোতি ক্ষীৰত তুলি, আহে দিন বাজে বিন নিরাশাবিহীন, আহে দিন বাজে বিন নিরাশাবিহীন, নাই আক্ষেপ কোনো কোৱা নোকোৱাৰ, সন্মুখত পোহৰৰ জ্বলন্ত জোৱাৰ। সত্য সাৰথি কৰি আহে দিন যায় দিন বিৰাম বিহীন, আহে দিন যায় দিন বিৰাম বিহীন, উৰন্ত মনে মোৰ নেমানে হেঙাৰ, হেঙাৰেই কৰে মোক মিঠা উপকাৰ। সুন্দৰ সূৰ্য ধিয়াই নাচে মন নাচে প্ৰাণ আশংকাবিহীন, নাচে মন নাচে প্ৰাণ আশংকাবিহীন, জীৱন্ত সুৰে মোৰ তোলে ঝংকাৰ, গঢ়ি নব উৎস গীতিকা গোৱা। অগ্রগতির পক্ষীরাজ উঠি যাও মই নতুন দিগন্তলৈ হাঁহি মুখে
The history of Assam is the history of the confluence of people from the east, west, and the north. The confluence of the Indo-Aryan, Austro-Asiatic, and Tibeto-Burman cultures. Let's go into the prehistory of Assam. The Paleolithic cultures. The earliest inhabitants of the region are assigned to the Middle Pleistocene period, 781,000 to 126,000 years ago, in the Rongram Valley of the Garo Hills. The early Neolithic cultures based on the unifacially flaked hand-axed in the Garo Hills have developed in line with the Hua Bin Hin cultures, and it is conjectured that this region was the contact point for the Indian and the Southeast Asian cultures. The late Neolithic cultures of affinities with the spread of the Monk Hemat-speaking people from Malaysia and the Ayeyarwady Valley, and late Neolithic developments in South China. Since these cultures have been dated to 4500 BC to 4000 BC, the Assam sites are dated to approximate that period. Some typical sites are Daujali, Hating in North Kachar Hills, Sarotaro in the Kamrup district, and Selbagiri in the Garo Hills. The Iron Age megalithic culture of South India finds an echo in the rich megalithic culture in the region of Assam, which begins to appear in the first millennium BC and which continues still today among the Khasi and the Naga people. The affinity is with Southeast Asia. The megalithic culture was the precursor of the fertility cult and the Shaktism and the Vajrayana Buddhism that followed. Go to Historic Assam is reconstructed from epics and literature from early times like the Mahabharata. The earliest political entity seems to have been laid by non-Aryan Danav dynasty, with Mahiranga mentioned as the first king. This dynasty was removed by Narkasur. Narka appears to be a generic name for many kings belonging to the Narka dynasty. According to legend, the last of the Narka king was killed by Krishna and his son Bhagadatta, who took the throne. Bhagadatta is said to have participated in the Mahabharata war with an army of China's Kiratas and dwellers of the Eastern Sea, thereby indicating that his kingdom, Pragjyotish, included part of Bangladesh. The last in the Narka dynasty is a ruler named Suparwa. The historical account of Assam then continues to the Burman dynasty in the 4th century in the Kamrup kingdom, which marks the beginning of ancient Assam. This dynasty was most likely of aboriginal origin and drew its lineage from Narkasur, and the Pala dynasty was founded by Brahmapala in the late 9th century AD. The last Pala king was removed by the Gaur king Rampala in 1110 AD. The fall of subsequent kings and the rise of individual kingdoms in the 12th century in place of the Kamrup kingdom marked the end of the Kamrup kingdom and the period of ancient Assam. The beginning of medieval Assam was marked by the rise of the Kin dynasty, which was frequently attacked by the rulers of Bengal. And finally, the last Kin king was removed in 1498. In the 16th century, Vishwasingha of the Koch tribe established the Koch dynasty in the Kamata kingdom. In the eastern part of the old Kamrupa kingdom, the Kachari and Suthia kingdoms arose, with portions controlled by the Bhuiya chieftains. In between the Kachari and the Suthia kingdoms arose a Shan group who established the Ahom kingdom. The Ahom kingdom in the course of time expanded into the Sutia kingdom to the east and pushed the Kachari kingdom to its west further south. After the death of Nara Narayana of the Koch dynasty in the late 16th century, the Kamata kingdom broke into the Koch Bihar in the west and the Koch Hajo in the east. Most of the 17th century saw a conflict between the Ahoms and the Mughals for the control over Koch Hajo, which ended in 1682 with the defeat of the Mughals at Eta Huli. After the Ahom kingdom reached its zenith, problems within the kingdom arose in 18th century when it lost its power briefly to rebels. Though the Ahoms recaptured power, it was beset with problems, leading to the Burmese invasion of Assam in the early 19th century. With the defeat of the Burmese in the First Anglo-Burmese War and with the subsequent Treaty of Yandabo, control of Assam passed into the hands of the British, which marked the end of the medieval period. After Assam was annexed in 1826 within the British East India Company, next Assam was included as a part of the Bengal Presidency between 1826 to 1873. The annexation of Upper Assam is attributed to the successful manufacture of tea in 1837 and the beginning of the Assam Company. Under the Wastelands Rule of 1838, it became nearly impossible for natives to start plantations. After the liberalization rules in 1854, there was a land rush. The Chinese staff that was imported earlier for the cultivation of tea left Assam in 1843 when tea plantations came to be tendered by local labor, mainly by those belonging to the Kachari group. From 1859, Central Indian labor was imported for the tea plantations. This labor, based on an unbreakable contract, led to a virtual slavery of this labor group. The conditions in which they were transported to Assam were so horrific that about 10% survived the journey. The colonial government already had monopoly over the opium trade. There were immediate protests and revolts against the British occupation. In 1828, 2 years after the Treaty of Yandabo, Gandharwar rose a revolt against the British, but he was easily suppressed. In 1830, Dhananjay Borgohain, Pioli Phukon, and Jioram rose in revolt and they were sentenced to death. In the Indian Rebellion of 1857, the people of Assam offered resistance in the form of non-cooperation, and Maniram Diwan and Pioli Barua were executed for their roles. In 1861, peasants of Nagaon gathered at Phulakori for a Rise Nail People's Assembly to protest against taxes on betel nut and pan. In 1874, the Assam region was separated from the Bengal Presidency. Sylhet was added to it and its status was upgraded to a Chief Commissioner's province. The capital was Shillong. Colonialism was well entrenched and the tea, oil and coal mining industries were putting increasing pressure on the agriculture sector, which was lagging behind. The peasants, burdened under the opium monopoly and the loans with interest by moneylenders, rose again in revolt. In 1903, the Assam's Association was formed with Manikchandra Barua as the first secretary. Between 1906 to 1912, Bengal was partitioned and East Bengal was added to the Chief Commissioner's province. The new region now, ruled by Lieutenant Governor, had its capital at Dhaka. This province had a 15-member legislative council in which Assam had only 2 seats. The members for these seats were recommended, not elected, by rotating groups of public bodies. The partition of Bengal was strongly protested in Bengal and the people of Assam were not happy either. The partition was finally annulled by a royal decree in 1911. The Swadeshi movement between 1905 to 1908 from this period went largely unfelt in Assam, though it stirred some, most notably Ambikagiri Roy Chaudhary. The beginning of 1905, the peasants from East Bengal began settling down in the riverine tracts of the Brahmaputra valley, encouraged by the colonial government to increase agricultural production. Between 1905 and 1921, the immigrant population from East Bengal increased fourfolds. Assam Legislative Council existed between 1912 to 1920. As Assam got sucked into the non-cooperation movement, the Assam Association slowly transformed itself into the Assam Pradesh Congress Committee, with 5 seats in the AICC between 1920 to 1921, and between 1921 to 1937 under the Government of India Act 1990. The Assam Legislative Council membership was increased to 53, of which 33 were elected by special constituencies. The powers of the council were increased too, but in effect, the official group consisting of the Europeans, the nominated members, have the most influence. Between 1937 to 1947, under the Government of India Act of 1945, the Assam Legislative Council was expanded into an assembly of 108 members with even more powers. The period saw the sudden rise of Gopinath Bordolai and Muhammad Sadullah and the tussle for power and influence. And finally, of course, the most important event in the history of Assam was the Assam agitation or the Assam movement. It was a popular movement in Assam between 1979 and 1985 against illegal immigration. The movement, led by the All Assam Students Union and the All Assam Gana Sangram Parishad, set an agitational program to compel the government to identify and expel the illegal immigrants and prevent new immigration. The agitational programs were largely non-violent. The agitational program ended in 1985 following the Assam Accord that was signed between the agitation leaders and the Government of India. The agitational leaders formed a new political party called the Assam Gana Parishad, which came to power in the state of Assam in the assembly elections of 1985. Lachit Borphukan, with the son of Momai Tamuli Borbarua, who started from humble beginnings and then rose to become the governor of Upper Assam and also commander-in-chief of the Ahom army. Thus, Lachit Borphukan have the benefit of the upbringing of the children of nobility of his times. Later, in 1669, Lachit was appointed the commander-in-chief of the Ahom army, constructed to drive out the imperial Mughal rulers. He actively participated in building the army and later led it in the Battle of Saraighat into a decisive victory against the Mughals. He died immediately after the victory due to illness. Lachit Borphukan was one of the greatest patriots that Assam ever saw. He is famous for this following episode. During the preparations of the Battle of Saraighat, he ordered an earthen wall to be constructed within one night and employ his maternal uncle as a supervisor. At late night, when Lachit came for inspection, he found that the work was not progressing satisfactorily. When asked for an explanation, his uncle tried to cite tiredness, to which Lachit became so furious in his negligence of duty that he beheaded his uncle on the spot, saying, "My uncle is not greater than my country." The barrier was completed within that night, and this episode is still cited in Assam as the ultimate example of Lachit's sincerity and patriotism. Lachit's last display of courage has never been forgotten. During the last stage of Battle of Saraighat, when the Mughals attacked by the river in the Saraighat at the sight of a massive Mughal fleet, the Assamese soldiers began to lose their will to fight. Some of them commenced to retreat. Lachit was seriously ill and was observing this development from his sick bed. He had himself carried down a loto, a boat, with 7 boats advanced headlong against the Mughal fleet. He told his soldiers if they want to flee, flee. The king has given me a task here and I will do it well. Let the Mughals take me away. You report to the king that his general fought well following his orders. This had an electrifying effect on his soldiers. They rallied behind Lachit and a desperate battle ensued on the Brahmaputra. In this furious engagement, Lachit Borphukon managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. The Mughals were decisively defeated and retreated from Guwahati. Thus ended the Battle of Saraighat in a decisive Ahom victory, despite all odds, and gave Lachit legendary fame in Assam. And this is Silarai. Silarai was a great general who belonged to the Koch dynasty that ruled Kamrup during the 16th century. A brother of the Koch king, Naranarayana, Silarai was also called Sukla Duraj and was both Prime Minister and Commander-in-Chief. Silarai's army of 60,000 men went on foot march and defeated the Ahoms and even occupied Gargaon, their capital, in 1563. Silarai is credited with having led expeditions even up to the Khasi and Jaintia hills, Manipur, Jupira and Sylhet.
सजना चले कहाँ तुम विनती करी तेरी पाँव पड़े तोरे कितना मनाया फिर भी नहीं सुनी रे छोड़ के कहाँ चले